dynamic year in the city of Aurora. Keep the applause going. We've had a good year. 2015, looking forward to another great year in 2016. Thank you to our ACTV team, Alex Perez, Scott Sauber, who pulled this together. We've had a wonderful time, and we look forward to the future here in the city of Aurora. You've had the pre-show, and now it's time for the main event. We are now live on aurora-il.org, so all of you who are updating your social media, please go ahead and push that out to your friends. We've gotten a number of tags in here. There's some avid social media folks in here, like Hector Ochoa and the crew, so we want to make certain that we let entire city of Aurora know that we are now live. Thanks to VisionFriendly.com and all of our partners here in the city of Aurora. It is my honor now to introduce to you the President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, the Aurora Chamber of Commerce. Please give a round of applause to Mr. Joe Henning.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Clayton. While we've been scrolling the sponsors behind me on the screen while you were eating, and that I would like to highlight them again and thank them, and thank our presenting sponsor for today's event on behalf of the entire regional business community. And congratulations to Walter E. Deutschler Associates on celebrating their 100th anniversary this year. Congratulations, John Ferrer. And thank you for your presenting sponsorship for this year's State of the City address. The work of the Aurora Regional Chamber would not be possible without the support of our members and our sponsors. So please join me in thanking today's event sponsors. We have Bright Oaks of Aurora, Engineering Enterprises, Heartland Recycling Aurora, Hollywood Casino Aurora, HR Green, Old Second Bank, OnLight Aurora, Presence Mercy Medical Center, Republic Services, Rush Copley Medical Center, Alarm Detection Systems, BMO Harris Bank, Dreyer Foot Strait Ferguson and Slocum, First Midwest Bank, Freudenberg Household Products, Invest Aurora, RC Wegman Construction Company, the Salvation Army, Wabansie Community College, Centru Bank, Crawford Murphy and Tilley, Northwestern Medicine, and Smith Amundsen. Thank you all. We also have a number of elected officials and the representatives here today that I'd like to recognize. So if you'll please hold your applause. I know I try this every year, it doesn't work, but I'm gonna ask you this year, work with me. We'll get through the list a little quicker. Hold your applause and I'll call the names. If they would all please stand, and then at the end we'll thank them for their service. Representing Congressman Bill Foster of Illinois' 11th Congressional District, we have Greg Cebulski. Christina Madridejos Mancini, representing Illinois Comptroller Leslie Munger's office. Christine Hannon, representing State Senator Linda Holmes. You're not standing, because I know they're all right over here. Thank you. They held their applause. You guys can at least stand for them. From the Kane County Board, we welcome Brian Dahl. And from DuPage County Board, joining us today are members Jim Healy and Tonya Curry. In addition to Mayor Tom Weisner and his wife Marilyn, representing the City of Aurora, we have City Council members Richard Irvin, Tina Bowman, Wani Garza, Ted Masiakos, Bill Donnell, Carl Franco, Mike Seville, Shakita Hart-Burns, thank you. Shakita Hart-Burns, Rick Mervine, Edward Bugg, and Lynn Johnson. Thank you. We have a number of municipal and city leaders with us today too, so I'd like to welcome from the City of Naperville, Mayor Steve Chirico, City of Batavia, Mayor Jeff Schulke, Village of North Aurora President Dale Berman, Village of Montgomery President Matt Brawley, and Village of Sugar Grove President Shawn Michaels, and Village of Oswego President Gail Johnson. Thank you all. From Naperville Township, we have Supervisor Rachel Asira, Assessor Warren Dixon, and Trustee Janice Anderson. Thank you. From Wabansie Community College, we have Trustee Pat Kelsey. From West Aurora 129 Board, we have Robert Gonzalez. And representing Indian Prairie 204 School Board is Mark Rising. Thank you. Oh, I'm almost done. Representing the Chamber Board of Directors today, I thank them for their volunteer service and their leadership and governance of the organization. We have Board Chair Alex Pope, as well as Directors Laura Newman, Linda Pilmer, Dr. Lulu Blacksmith, Ed Hunter, Karen Nelson, and Jacob Bonifield. Thank you. Thank you. We also have a number of past chairs of the board in attendance today, and so I'd like to recognize and thank Laura Newman, Linda Pilmer, Scott Voris, John Diedrich, Wally Mundy, Jim Ecker, Bob Vaughn, Dan Dolan, Charlie Doss, and Dick Bacala for their service over the years. Thank you. Once again, thank you all for joining us today, and now I'd like to introduce Board Chair Alex Pope to introduce today's speaker.
He said, be brief. Be very brief. No, I'm just kidding. I wanted to, first of all, add my congratulations to Walter E. Deutschler Associates for your 100th anniversary. Walter's granddaughter is actually right here sitting with us. She works at Rush Copley, so congratulations to you and thank you for your sponsorship. We appreciate it. I have the honor of introducing our esteemed guest. Tom Weisner is currently serving the last year of his third and final term as mayor of Aurora, the state's second largest city with a population of over 200,000. In his 11 years in office, Mayor Weisner has utilized public-private partnerships to propel this former blue-collar town into the 21st century as a high-performing, progressive city. His ability to combine innovation with infrastructure has also yielded impressive results and continues to pave the way for economic development opportunities citywide. Mayor Weisner is also a leader on the regional, state, and national level, currently serving as the Kane-Kendall representative to the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, executive board member of the Illinois Municipal League, and recently served as the chairman of the Chicago Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. Tom is founding chairman of the Northwest Water Planning Alliance, which will be hosting its first conference in Aurora next month. He was recognized for his regional efforts in 2015 when the DuPage mayors and managers named him Governmental Leader of the Year for 2014. Prior to joining the Aurora City staff in 1986, Tom and his wife Marilyn served in the Peace Corps, assisting Melanesian rainforest dwellers in the highlands of Guadalcanal, Solomon Islands. It is my honor, before Tom steps up, we want to show you his leadership skills in action with our good friends at the Paramount Theater.
How are you? It's nice to see you all. I think my singing is like a graph of my operational tax levy over the years. Pretty flat. But it was fun. We had two more acts that were politically incorrect, so we can't show them today, but whatever. I want to welcome you all here today. I'm very happy to be with you. I came in today and I had any number of people saying, well, it's the Swan Song, huh? And this is your last one, this, and I hadn't really thought about it, but we designed this event today to eliminate any possibility of postpartum depression. By the time you're done here today, you'll walk out saying, thank God I don't have to come to another one of these in the future. That's the plan. So, but I do want to thank Joe Henning and Alex Pope, the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. And I got to pile on and also congratulate Walter Deutschler, the main sponsor here, for 100 years of service to this community. Thank you very much for everything you've done. It's a distinct pleasure to have so many of my fellow mayors here from neighboring communities. Mayor Chirico from Naperville is at his first State of the City address. Apparently, Mayor Pradle didn't warn him at all, so thank you for being with us. Mayor Schilke of Batavia is the dean of the entire group, with I think about 30 35 years as mayor of Batavia, an absolutely incredible career and performance down in the chamber. But I want to tell my colleagues, my fellow mayors, that were it not for you being here today, I would not be the least bit nervous. But because you're here, I'm a little worried about the peer group thing and, you know, performing and all that stuff. So, but I'm glad you're here, very glad you're here. And I also want to thank the City Council, many of whose members are with us today as well. They are smart, they are committed, and they do a great job serving their various communities as well as the community as a whole. Thank you for all that you do and for the work you do jointly with my administration. I appreciate that so much. So, this was a monster here, isn't it? Let's see if I can. And if you can't hear me in the back at any point, just yell a little bit, okay? So we are aware of that. Okay, so the world is seeing Aurora in a whole new light. Yes, we are just emerging from a deep and dark recession, but we were not silent or static during that time. And today, we are the better for stubbornly moving forward in the face of adversity over the past several years. Today, the world sees Aurora in a whole new light. Aurora has reinvented itself as a smart city, anchored by a 62-mile fiber optic network. Our investment in this robust technology infrastructure, the fourth utility as it were, not only attracts business, but got us ranked as one of the 15 top intelligent cities globally last year. And incidentally, even though we did not participate in the competition this year, I was invited to come back and speak to the Intelligent Community Forum in Columbus, so that was a nice honor. Where we were once recognized for our smokestacks along the river, Aurora has been reimagined as a sustainable city. Today, we're nationally known as a city that conserves resources, utilizes green infrastructure, cleans up its riverfront, builds lead structures, and creates sustainable transit-oriented development. Aurora has transformed itself into a safe city with crime per capita figures at less than half of what they were 15 years ago and homicide rates at the national average and below the statewide average. Aurora's evolution into a smart, sustainable, and safe city has positioned it as one of the region's most livable cities, both for now and the future. An exciting and diverse city, Aurora attracts 500,000 people to its downtown each year and thousands more to its outlying parks and amenities. Aurora has reemerged as a vibrant working city with a low unemployment rate and a large workforce that can serve the needs of businesses now and in the future. Today, we are the home of 16 international, North American, or U.S. business headquarters. Yes, it's clear, I think, that the world is seeing Aurora in a whole new light. I want to take a little of your time today, if I could, to talk about the past year and the many accomplishments of our community. But I also want to spend some time discussing our future. Last year, when I announced the arrival of Fellows and Victory Packaging and the retention and growth of Shore Packaging and Pittsburgh Paint and Glass, on top of a 60+% expansion of the premium outlets, I thought we were going to have a pretty good economic development year here in Aurora. But I didn't realize just how good it was going to be. 2015 was Aurora's best year ever when it comes to economic development. Last year, we set new record highs, not just for the number of permits issued, but also for the dollar value of those projects, exceeding $500 million in valuation for the first time ever. And this wasn't simply a one-year bump. In fact, let me state clearly that 2013, 14, and 15 produced the highest total numbers of permits issued in any consecutive 3-year period in the history of Aurora, and the highest construction valuation for any 3-year period as well, totaling $1.15 billion. Yes, indeed. Yeah, go ahead, you can climb. We'll let that go. Don't let me thwart your applause in any way, shape, or form. Feel free to just, So I do believe, once again, that businesses are seeing Aurora in a whole new light. Let's talk now about what's transpired since last we met here. Aldi, a global supermarket chain with 10,000 stores in 18 countries, has its national headquarters in Batavia. Now, Mayor Schilke has kindly let us borrow just one little division, the IT division, which has purchased a 5-story office building on Corporate Drive in Aurora and is doing an $11.5 million rehab. Paul Morass of Aldi, I think, is here today. Yep, there you go. Raise your hand. And I do want to mention, I mentioned Fellows, and I will mention Shore Paper or Packaging soon. Both those companies that we talked about last year are moving into their facilities this very weekend, so that's kind of a cool thing. Will you guys raise your hands over there? All right, cool. So the Chicago Mercantile Exchange has entered into a sale and leaseback agreement with Cyrus One, who's also here today, which owns more than 30 data centers across the U.S. Cyrus One is also expected, hopefully, to undertake a 250,000 square foot expansion on the property. Cyrus was attracted to Aurora's unmatched connectivity to the world, and both Cyrus and Aldi's will be served by Aurora's fiber network through OnLight Aurora. Cherry Man Furniture will soon open a 152,000 square foot logistics center in Aurora. I mentioned Shore Package and Pittsburgh Paint and Glass earlier. These are two firms who already had a presence in Aurora and decided to stay and grow with us, like our friends at Glanbia and also Diamond Envelope. And our newest loyal Aurora companies are Custom Filters and Dedicated Logistics, both of whom will be staying and expanding in Aurora. When it comes to the local economy and business climate, I believe retention is the highest form of flattery. One business that has invested and reinvested in our community over the years is Rush Copley Hospital. Recently, they opened a beautiful cancer care facility across from their hospital campus on Waterford Drive. A multitude of services are available, including everything from counseling to free wigs. And you don't need to be a Copley patient in order to benefit. And I want to credit them and thank them for that contribution to our community. Alex, John Diederich, I think, is here. Thank you for your generous community spirit. We appreciate it. We also have some welcome economic development activity in our central far west side. At Galena and Orchard, we have finally found the right project for the right place at the right time. The long vacant southwest corner will host a $6.9 million Bickford senior living development with 60 apartments and plans for 5 single-family homes in phase 2. Also generating activity and property taxes in the area will be a new Aurora Bank and Trust in the last stages of construction, just west of Walgreens. And a bit to the south, near Prisco's Groceries on Prairie, the Spartan House, a full-service restaurant, is under construction and will open this summer. We're looking forward to that too. I think Mike and Ron are here with us today too. I think I saw them. Guys, raise your hands wherever you may be. Thank you for... Dreyer Clinic is building a new 75,000 square foot multifunctional medical facility on the south side of I-88, which will open in July. Dreyer is vacating its property on West Downer, but through solid efforts by School District 129, by Advocate Dreyer Health, by Invest Aurora, and by the city, the area will not be left with a fossilized empty building. In fact, Advocate Dreyer's partial donation of the clinic site paves the way for District 129 to transform the property, which might otherwise sit vacant, into a robust education campus, including new early childhood, special education, and career training programs for students. Thus, a large portion of the West Galena area will retain a healthy daytime population to frequent restaurants, stores, and services, while the community continues to benefit from both the excellent medical services, the tax base, and the jobs the new Dreyer campus will provide. And West Side students will receive an enhanced educational service. I think that's a win-win-win, as the Donald might say. I want to thank President and CEO Donna Cooper, who I believe couldn't be with us today, along with Superintendent Jeff Craig, who also is elsewhere, and Investor Aurora, Dave Holzberg, for making this important redevelopment happen in our city. And while we're talking about growing businesses, I want to acknowledge the efforts of the Women's Business Development Center for their work in helping small business grow and expand in Aurora. It's been wonderful to see the energy that they bring to our community and dedicated to both small and to women's business in particular. Thank you for being in our community. We very much appreciate that. So what does this litany of new and expanding businesses and projects add up to? Jobs, more jobs, and low unemployment in Aurora. Once again in 2015, Aurora outperformed other Illinois cities of similar size and makeup on the job front. Although 2015 was a bit of a roller coaster ride for the entire state, as you can see in the variation of month-to-month numbers, Aurora did better than most, including the state as a whole. When you consider that Aurora has a larger and younger population of job seekers than most other cities, our record is even more impressive. And all this in the midst of a state fiscal crisis that continues unabated while Springfield plays politics with our future. So what does the future look like for economic development in our city? Perhaps this headline from a recent Crain's Chicago Business article represents the best picture of what we can be. Goodbye, China. Hello, Aurora. More welcome words could not be spoken. This great headline covered a story about Peerless AV, located along I-88 in Aurora. Peerless is with us today, too. Would you raise your hand? Thank you, sir. Peerless recently moved several hundred industrial jobs from overseas locations and now employs more than 400 people working around the clock on 3 shifts. More and more companies are learning that overseas manufacturing is not in their long-term interests. As these companies look to bring design, manufacturing, and assembly functions back to the U.S., Aurora is well positioned to welcome them home. So how can Aurora, with its plentiful and growing workforce, attract high-value businesses that create more jobs, provide strong property tax inputs, and in turn attract supply companies and other complementary businesses? The answer? By making sure that all of our high school students graduate, and that when they graduate, they are employable even if they don't head off to a 4-year college. How does this work? We have only to look at the progressive efforts of the West Side School District 129 to see. Taking a lead role along with Waubonsee Community College to develop a Pathways to Prosperity initiative, District 129 has never looked back. Recognizing that a strong percentage of their students were not bound on career paths that would involve a 4-year college degree, they have been making sure that this segment of their student population can build a successful future. After identifying IT, healthcare, and advanced manufacturing as key industries for the future, District 129 has worked with Waubonsee to develop about 50 dual credit courses, allowing students to obtain both high school and college credits for courses aligned with these technical and well-paid career paths. Last year, the forward-looking voters of District 129 approved a referendum. Not only will the district modernize ancient classrooms, replace temporary structures, and create new early learning classrooms, they will also make sure students who can't afford to pursue 4-year degrees don't hit a dead end of opportunity on the night they receive their high school diplomas. The district will provide specialized career training at a new facility at the former Dreyer campus to create a bright future for those students. District 129, in partnership with Waubonsee Community College, the Aurora Regional Chamber of Commerce is showing a great leadership in the Pathways to Prosperity effort. As a matter of fact, right now, as I speak, a collaborative team from 129 and Waubonsee Community College are out of state in Nebraska looking at exemplary programs to build upon as they plan to create a career and technical training model second to none here in Aurora. I've often said that there are only two possible outcomes relating to our large population of young students here in Aurora. The preferred alternative is a well-trained workforce, which will not only provide existing businesses with first-rate employees, but will attract new businesses to Aurora while strengthening our job base, our tax base, and our quality of life with a productive citizenry. The alternative is an undertrained and underemployed workforce that so often leads to hopelessness, to poverty, and to higher crime rates for communities. I strongly believe that the decisions our education leaders across Aurora make in the next 2 years will decide which of those outcomes Aurora experiences. I want to acknowledge Superintendent of Schools Dr. Jeff Craig, School Board Chairman Robert Gonzalez, as well as Dr. Christine Sobek and Dr. Lulu Blacksmith from Waubonsee and Joe Henning from the Chamber of Commerce for their visionary efforts in this effort. Thank you. This past year, the city and Invest Aurora partnered with District 204 on our Far East side in the Fox Valley Mall to give 300 students an opportunity to assess and provide recommendations for marketing the mall. Not only did this give the students a real-world case study, Invest Aurora and Fox Valley benefited from the great ideas that the students proposed for the future. A win-win for all. There I go again. Thanks to the mall's general manager, Scott Sampson, who I don't believe could be with us today, for facilitating that effort. District 204 also received national acclaim and a trip to the White House for its innovative use of technology to enhance student learning. Kudos to Superintendent Dr. Karen Sullivan, who's with us today, School Board President Lori Price, and their entire board and staff. Could you raise your hands if you want? Right there. They're just like typical students. They sit in the back of the room if they can. And also, as Clayton mentioned, their choir or choral group won a Grammy. I did not win a Grammy. You can see why. But anyway, congratulations on that as well. And let's not forget our private schools either here. Sometimes we have a tendency to do that. And Aurora is really blessed with some great ones, and I'm just going to mention two today. It's been very heartening to see the plans for expansion of Aurora Central Catholic High School at a time when parochial schools across the country are seeing their registrations fall and sometimes closing. There's no doubt, I think, that Aurora Central Catholic's growth is in large part due to the energy and commitment of Father Etheridge, who said our prayer today at lunch, in providing a high-value education at reasonable prices. Father Etheridge, would you stand up and be recognized? They're adding 11 classrooms, I think, including some STEM-related classrooms, so that they can take on another 250 students. That's pretty amazing stuff, I think. The second private school I want to recognize is known for its sports prowess almost as much as its academic excellence. In 2015, Rosary High School won its 5th state swimming championship in the last 10 years. Talk about a dynasty. Bill Shawls, Mary Lou Kunos, are you with us? Stand up and take a bow there, you guys. Next year, we'll recognize Protestant schools. This was the Catholic year. I think it was an encyclical, I'm not sure. So, the City of Aurora, in collaboration with many community partners, continues to invest in our students through our support of after-school programs as well as summer camps run by CIS, or Communities in Schools. And these programs, which include many community partners as well, touched nearly 3,400 students in school districts 129, 131, 204, and 308. Not only do these programs provide at-risk kids positive activities to keep them on track academically and socially, they also give Aurora University students an opportunity to get real-world experience in youth leadership, and they provide dozens of summer jobs for our local teams as well, our teens as well. But CIS certainly isn't the only organization in Aurora providing opportunities for youth. Late last year, we heard about the plight of Simply Destiny, a not-for-profit dance group which is composed of 100 young boys and girls, ages 5 to 18. Started by Lisa Oliva after her daughter Destiny's suicide, the dance troupe provides a safety net for at-risk youth, helping young people develop a sense of self-confidence and self-esteem. With their large group and daily practices, Simply Destiny was finding it difficult to find a home. My staff went to work searching high and low across our city and finally discovered the upstairs of Luxemburger Hall on High Street near St. Nick's Catholic Church. So it's the Catholic thing. So parenthetically, though, let me add that the downstairs of Luxemburger Hall houses the Luxemburger Club, which is thought by many to offer the finest Friday night fish fry in town. But I digress. Teaming together with the city, Fox Valley United Way and the Aurora Housing Authority are helping Simply Destiny with its rent so that this all-volunteer organization can continue to build strong bodies and strong spirits among our youth. Let me take this opportunity to introduce and thank Simply Destiny co-founders Lisa Oliva and co-founder Martin Luna. Would you stand up and be recognized, please? There you are. And while we're talking about organizations that support our youth, the annual Back to School Fair is just one way the Aurora Kiwanis Club contributes to our community. No service club in Aurora has been stronger or more active than the Aurora Kiwanis, who are celebrating this year their 100th anniversary. Applause, please. Every year, this group donates thousands of dollars and countless hours to support area youth programs, clean up the Fox River riverfront or Indian Creek, host blood drives, and so much more. So let me ask any and all Kiwani members who happen to be in the room to stand up and be recognized. Earlier I said that Aurora had transformed itself into a safe city. Investing in after-school and summer programs for at-risk youth is one smart way we work to deter future crime. In 2015, Aurora's homicide rate was at the national average and below the state average. Overall, as far as crime goes, I guess we could say that last year we had an average year. There was a time when this city might have been happy to settle for average, but not anymore. Last year, when it became clear that crime numbers were not trending positively, our police and city staff immediately began to evaluate and implement new strategies to put us back on track. Our police went out into the community, listened, and adjusted. With help from our Community Services Department, in mid-2015, we launched a new neighborhood group support program to engage and empower residents to be partners with the police. During a 6-month period, the community united and more than 4,200 people came together to show their support at neighborhood events, and 7 new neighborhood groups have been created with 4 more in the formative stage. Chief Zeman, our new chief, understands that community engagement is key to lowering crime. That is one of the reasons that I appointed her as Aurora's first female police chief earlier this year. And folks, she has hit the ground running. She has revised CompStat with a problem-oriented police approach that has police officers at all levels in all divisions sharing info about crime in real time and formulating comprehensive responses that deal with crime as it is, just as it is, that is, fluid. She has involved the department in greater community engagement, showing leadership by example. On Palm Sunday, she and Deputy Chief Keith Jackson visited several Hispanic churches and spoke to their congregations. She is working with the Aurora Cares and YWCA to launch Everyday Democracy, a community dialogue involving residents and police officers. She's also working to build bridges to our minority communities with the goal, as she says, of building trust, one contact at a time. And I'm sorry Chief Zeman couldn't be here today, but I will say that I think we're seeing results from all these activities. Despite the gentle winter, shootings, which sometimes connote to people, somebody getting shot, when actually it just means that a shot was fired and confirmed. Shootings for the period ending April 11th, 2016 are down by 55% over the same period last year. Although we recently had a rash of robberies on the Far East Side, they were all perpetrated by the same people, and our police department did an excellent job of taking them off the street quickly. Unfortunately, Chief Zeman, as I said, is out of town, but our police department is well represented by its new command staff that includes our newly appointed Deputy Chief, and if you would stand up as I read your name, Deputy Chief Keith Jackson, and new commanders Keith Cross and Mike Dorzap. I've had the chance to meet several times with this new command staff and the chief, and I have absolutely no doubt that the police department has a very, very bright future. We also have a new fire chief in Aurora. Gary Krenitz did not become chief by virtue of seniority, but by bringing fresh ideas and energy to the department. Chief, would you stand up and be recognized? Stay up there. The chief has also promoted some rising stars, including Deputy Chief John Gilbert and Fire Marshal Javon Cross. Will you gentlemen stand up? Chief Krenitz has a few major projects on his plate as well. Originally built in 1957, Fire Station number 7 on Aurora's near west side no longer meets the needs of the surrounding neighborhood. We are currently in the design phase of a new expanded fire station at that site, which will add a second much-needed ambulance to the community. The new station is expected to be under construction early next year and open by the fall of 2017. Both Chief Krenitz and Chief Zeman are relatively young, relative to me at least, and I believe their respective departments will benefit very much by having consistent but professional and progressive leadership over the long term. Thank you for taking on these assignments. When we talk about the state of our city, there's literally nothing more important or less exciting to talk about than infrastructure. Infrastructure may be boring, but it's absolutely fundamental to the growth and progress of our community. For example, how many of us remember that without our $13.5 million investment in sanitary sewer improvements in 2006, virtually none of the growth we've seen in our downtown would have been permitted by the sanitary district. There would be no Waubonsee campus. There would be no South River Street condos. There would be no new public library. If we had not been successful in creating the I-88 EOLA interchange, would FHP or McKesson have decided to locate in Aurora? Probably not. Infrastructure is fundamental, and Aurora has prioritized smart and sustainable capital projects that encourage growth and economic development. Last year, the Mitchell Road Bridge over the tollway was completed, along with the two bridges at Indian Trail, which comprise what we call the Indian Trail Bridge. This year, the Ohio Street Bridge and the Farnsworth Avenue Bridge at the tollway will be rebuilt, along with the Sheffer Road Bridge. Next year, work will begin on the Farnsworth Avenue Bridge near Mountain, and thus I can say that we will have averaged a rebuilding of one bridge for each of the 12 years of my 3 terms as mayor. This has not been done before. Why have we been so aggressive in this effort? Number one, because our bridge infrastructure was getting old. Nearly 1 out of every 9 bridges, is my understanding, in the country, is deemed structurally deficient. We didn't want to be complacent like so many other parts of the country. Number 2, Under current federal government programs, the feds pay 80% of the construction costs of these projects. But given the vagaries of the federal government these days, we had no assurance that this program would continue long term. Therefore, it's been our strategy to get these projects knocked out in order to enhance our infrastructure while at the same time keeping the burden on our local taxpayers as low as possible. 2016 will also see the completion of Ogden Avenue Overpass at the Canadian National Railroad tracks on our far southeast side. Because of our concentrated efforts during CN's purchase of the old EJ&E line, CN is paying about 2/3 of the cost of the overpass, or $18 million, instead of the 5 to 15% typically required by the feds, creating huge savings for state and local taxpayers. The long-awaited EOLA Road widening between 83rd Street and Keating Drive will complete utility relocations very soon and reach a substantial completion level by the end of this year, ending a frustrating bottleneck on the well-used segment of EOLA Road. We also will repave 40 lane miles of neighborhood streets in 2016 and 15 lane miles of arterials and major collectors and replace about 5 miles of old water mains. Okay, you might be experiencing infrastructure burnout about now, but there's one more initiative that deserves some mention. Just last month, we began moving forward a new and innovative means of saving the city millions of dollars over the next several decades. Each year, we use tons of raw lime to treat our drinking water that comes from the deep and shallow aquifers, as well as the Fox River. The residue is aptly named lime sludge. And by the way, wasn't dessert excellent tonight? Lime sludge is considered a special waste, which is more costly to dispose of than everyday waste. And getting rid of lime sludge also requires the costly and time-consuming process of removing moisture content first. The City of Aurora has received IEPA approval to pump undried lime through an underground pipeline to the present empty underground gravel mines on Aurora's side of the tollway at Route 25 and Meadow Road. The lime sludge will be deposited in large underground expanses of these emptied underground mines. Estimated savings over normal disposal practices over a 30-year estimated useful life of the mines is more than $25 million, saving about $1.1 million in operating costs per year after covering the initial costs of the proposal. There are dollars that these then become dollars that can be used in the future to replace aging water mains and make plant improvements to ensure future capacity. Not unlike the city's fiber optic network built in my first term, which saves us close to $1 million annually. This project represents a smart, innovative, and sustainable use of technology to save taxpayer dollars. Okay, I think that's enough for infrastructure today, or maybe for a lifetime. And that's the point. The City of Aurora is very proud of our city-owned and operated parks, like Phillips Park with its golf course, sunken garden, and zoo, Garfield Park in the First Ward, and the more recently upgraded McCarty Park. These are legacy parks created decades or centuries ago. But the fact is, there is now a branch of government whose sole purpose for existence is the provision of park and recreation facilities and services. That entity is the Fox Valley Park District, and they do a great job at their core mission. The newly refurbished Blackberry Park is evidence of that. I'm a firm believer in eliminating governmental overlap and wasteful duplication of services, and now that the Fox Valley Park District will soon have a democratically elected board, it's time to begin discussions with them about consolidating as many Aurora-based parks as possible under the management of the Park District, and leaving the location and construction of future parks as well to the Park District. With that in mind, I'm announcing today that I will be putting forward to the City Council proposals to give the Park District the former West High and Aurora Christian School site at Blackhawk and Galena for development as a neighborhood park, and to donate 2 parcels behind Northgate and Carson's Shopping Center on Palace Street for the same purpose in the Riddle Highland and Bishop Park area. These initiatives will be part of a comprehensive agreement between the city and the Park District involving the trading of several Park District or city-owned parcels that create what I would call, oh no, did I say that again? A win-win-win situation for the city, the Park District, and especially for Aurora residents. For example, the city will donate the Blackhawk site after paying for an expensive environmental cleanup, but the Park District will pay the considerable cost of building the park and maintaining it for decades to come. In the Bishop Park Riddle Highlands neighborhood, Alderman Seville has pledged ward funds for the purchase of the necessary parcels, and the Park District has already budgeted to develop the park. Let me be very clear that this project is dependent on the property owner's willingness to sell the properties directly to the city for a reasonable asking price, but if that is done, we will move forward. Good news, Alderman Seville, I think, right?
Yes, thank you.
As part of the overall deal, the city and the Park District will swap properties the city needs for public infrastructure or economic development, or conversely, that the Park District needs for its own purposes. Jim Pilmer and Bob Vaughn, Jim being the new executive director, Bob the chairman of the board, and the entire Park District board, I want to thank you all for your collaboration to create greater consolidation and efficiencies, and for the joint effort to develop new neighborhood parks in what are currently densely populated and badly underserved areas that we sometimes refer to as park deserts. Thank you for your commitment. Parks are a major component, I think, we all understand, of quality of life, and both the Park District and the City of Aurora are dedicated to continuous improvement. So the board, would you, if you're all together, stand, even if you're not all together, stand. There we go. The English poet John Donne said, "No man is an island." I would extend that today to say, no man is an island, and very few own one. But today I'm happy to announce that Dan DUEFEL, owner of Superior Beverage, has agreed to donate the small island just south of Stope Island to the Fox Valley Park District. This island will be renamed DUEFEL Island in honor of Dan's generous donation. Dan is with us. Would you stand up, please? So yes, we're doing a lot of work, and it all costs money, but by partnering together and maximizing state and federal grant dollars, we're actually lessening the long-term burden on Aurora's taxpayers. And with that, I think it's time to talk about the city budget. But before I do, I need to briefly touch on one real financial threat facing all cities in Illinois, and that is public safety pensions. If gentlemen, if you get called out for an emergency or anything, feel free to go. Our public safety employees' hard work is immeasurable, and I think we all agree that they deserve generous pensions without a doubt. Unfortunately, the state of Illinois pension policies are financially unsustainable. In the case of the state's university, public school, state employees, university employees, public school employee pensions, the state is responsible for their payment, but has chronically underfunded them, diverting money to other things. That is in fact, why we live in the #1 debtor state in the nation. For public safety pensions, police and fire, local taxpayers pay the freight, but the legislature consistently makes them more expensive. All across this state, it is becoming harder and harder for cities and villages to balance their budgets. In Aurora, public safety pensions are now above the $5 million mark per pension for many firemen and policemen, and will continue to grow annually. Without some reform, many cities may be virtually bankrupt within the next few years. And then, what will become of those pension promises? Our police and fire employees deserve a stable and sustainable retirement income, which is why I will continue to call on our state elected officials to advocate for real reform. Unlike our friends at the state of Illinois, we have been smart with our finances, holding the line on the budget in 2016 wherever we have control. The overall city budget is $370 million, down from about $384 million last year. The general fund operations levy rose only slightly last year in order to capture some development-based EAV. Nonetheless, as you can see, our 10-year record has been very conservative. We've also been aggressive at refunding our debt to take advantage of lower borrowing costs. Last year, we refunded 3 bonds, sets of bonds, saving taxpayers about $12.5 million. Moreover, we're committed to providing citizens a detailed account of how we use your tax dollars. The city has won the Government Finance Officers Association's Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for 17 straight years. And this year, yes, give them a little credit for that. And this year, for the first time, in the interest of even greater transparency, we have published a budget in brief, a copy of which is on your table. You no longer need to sift through 300-page budget document to understand the city's budget. Thank you to Brian Caputo and the Finance Department for that effort. It is now officially our best practice going forward. Okay, let's move on to something very exciting. How about arts in our downtown? I mention both because downtown is critical to the arts in Aurora, and the arts are critical to our downtown. Did I say critical? Did I say it twice? That reminds me of Critical Reviews, and that reminds me of the Paramount Broadway series. Last year, I talked to Chicago's major theater critics successfully demanding that Aurora and the Paramount Theater be included in Chicago's Jeff Awards. I announced that the Jeff Awards Board had finally included the Paramount for consideration in last year's judging. What none of us knew back then in April of 2015 was that the Paramount would receive 16 nominations and end up receiving 5 Jeff Awards. Those included Best Musical Production and Best Director for a Musical. And if they had a Rookie of the Year award, they would have won that too. I think it's time for CEO Tim Rader and Artistic Director Jim Cordy to take a major bow. Gentlemen, would you stand up and take it up? And frankly, I think it's time for us to give them a theatrical standing ovation. You need a little exercise anyway, right? Listen to the progress that Paramount has made in just a few years with these guys at the helm. From 116 theater nights and a total attendance of 54,730 in the 2010-11 season, the Paramount last year held 302 theater nights and attracted a total crowd of over 300,000 people. Is that remarkable or what? Good job, guys. But the Paramount is not the only attraction in downtown. Hundreds of area people are flocking downtown for First Fridays, music at the Plaza, celebrations that include dance, artwork, food, pop-up shops, and just plain fun. And a new Downtown Saturdays event is being added for this year. These and other events are largely not organized by the city, but by volunteers with a love for the arts and a love for Aurora. There are many people involved at some level in these activities, but 2 amazing leaders, Marissa Amoni, arts impresario and author of the quarterly Aurora Downtown magazine, and Kim Granholm, owner of the Aurora Fast Print Shop and tireless president or chairman of the Aurora Downtown Committee, are with us today. Ladies, would you please stand up and accept our appreciation? Remarkable energy, and it's all volunteer. It's amazing. In 2012, we decided to change Downer Place and Benton Street within our downtown to 2-way streets. This began input from shop owners and tenants along Downer, which resulted in only 1 lane of traffic in each direction and bump outs at Stolp and Downer intersection. The bump outs created opportunities for gardens, including rain gardens, which keep tainted stormwater out of the Fox River. The immediate result, a beautiful flower-filled streetscape, slower traffic, and accessibility to the neighborhood from both the east and the west. What happened next? There were suddenly more people on the street, walking dogs, walking baby buggies, riding bikes. It was something to behold. The story gets even better. Before long, that street that once had been filled with retail stores. In fact, my mother worked at Ginsberg's dress shop as a teenager, which had long been a retail vacuum, saw an increasing retail presence from a homebrew supply shop to a bicycle shop to a dance studio to YM Boutique, a woman's shop that my mother would have been proud to work in. YM's owners, Jessica and Andre couldn't make it today, that's right. Jessica Fong, she is with us today, so I wanted to recognize her as well. Jessica and Andre recently invested in a second downtown building, which I think is a very good sign for Aurora. The story gets better yet. They say the secret of success in the suburbs today is keeping working millennials here instead of in Chicago. We announced last November that Support Companies LLC would be occupying the old library building and bringing 100 millennial employees with them. At about the same time, David Karadimas began the redevelopment of the Elks building with its unique and beautiful Mayan revival architecture. Between 25 and 29 apartments are under construction today, which along with the Leland Tower and Grand Building apartments create absolutely great living opportunities for those 100 employees and others. These two projects should be open in May and June respectively. We are working with Support Tech to create opportunities on their lower floor for the arts community as well. But where will these millennials go at night? To begin with, Mr. Karadimas will be adding a restaurant on the first floor of the Elks building, not to mention Leland Legends, a soon-to-be-open restaurant on the first floor at the corner of Stolt and Galena. This is just an example of the synergies that are developing in our downtown as the Great Recession recedes. Visionary business leaders like David Karadimas and Support Companies President Ron Janis and Vice President Melinda Kruder are embracing downtown Aurora. Would you please stand up and be recognized for your efforts? Believe me, I know that we're only in the early stages of this effort, but things are really beginning to happen. And if we can create job opportunities, living environments at competitive pricing, arts and entertainment, a variety of restaurants, and a couple of badly needed night spots, creating an ambiance, a comfort level, and excitement at half the price of Chicago, we can keep and attract more of that highly sought group of millennials right here in Aurora. And if we can keep them here, we can attract new businesses that also need the millennial workforce. When we attract business, we grow job opportunities and strengthen our tax base. It's just as simple and just as complicated as that. The recent rebirth of Downer Place can be replicated. Recently, we eliminated the one-way portion of Lake Street, allowing us to reclaim River Street from state control. In doing so, we have kept through truck traffic on Lake Street and transformed River Street from a noisy northbound speedway to a quieter two-way street with increased parking and a protected bike trail that eliminated the only remaining gap at a 38-mile bike trail that runs from Oswego to Algonquin. I expect that soon we will see the occupation of vacant commercial space in the South River Street Plaza buildings and development of the vacant space near our central library. I believe that Aurora's downtown is on the right path. But downtown is not the only area we're having success creating livable, accessible, and sustainable neighborhoods. The city's investment in Station Boulevard off East New York Street between Fox Valley Mall and the Metro Station has created 4 new residential projects now under construction on top of the 2 already completed. These transit-oriented developments will soon feature a direct entrance to Route 59 station, the busiest station on the entire metro system. With nearly 1,400 total apartments and townhomes planned, This is one of the largest transit-oriented developments in northeastern Illinois, if not the entire state. The next and last stop on the Metro line drops off in downtown Aurora, which is why I'm confident that it too is well positioned for some similar residential development boom as the economy continues to pick up. You might have noticed the demolition of the old office building and former eyesore across from City Hall. The entire block is ideally suited for a riverfront apartment project with the sloped street allowing for a basement parking area. As I've said, residential growth in the downtown is a big part of the equation for success of the downtown. A thriving arts and entertainment infrastructure and the existing proximity to Metro are the other critical variables. How many people in this room were born at the St. Charles Hospital? Would you raise your hand if you were born at St. Charles Hospital? 1, 2, 3, 4? We got 4, okay, good. How many even know where St. Charles Hospital is? Well, that's really, I'm very impressed. This beautiful 5-story building is just 2 blocks east of Broadway on New York Street, and it's undergoing a wonderful transformation. Under the watchful eye of Evergreen Development, by the end of this calendar year, this lovely piece of Aurora's past will reemerge as a 60-unit senior apartment building. It's an ideal site, easily within walking distance of the Aurora Transportation Center, a grocery store, and beautiful McCarty Park that Alderman Garza and I worked to transform back in 2007, despite all the skeptics who said we were wasting our time. Thank you, Wani, for your work. The only thing nicer than looking up at this 1932 Art Deco building from the park will be looking down on the park from an upper story apartment. While there is great promise in our downtown, there are also threats to our progress. The St. Charles Hospital redevelopment would not have been possible without the state's River Edge historic tax credit. This development tool received overwhelming support originally in the legislature. However, communities weren't able to realize the full value of the tax credit because the economy collapsed and there was little or no investment. As I speak, Aurora officials are in Springfield urging legislators to extend this credit. Old historic buildings are challenging and costly to redevelop, to say the least. For Aurora, this tool is critical. Extending the tax credit incentivizes developers to take on projects that will create hundreds of skilled construction jobs, dozens of permanent positions, and millions of dollars in economic development in and around our downtown. Without the tax credit, it's unlikely a viable developer will be found to redevelop the old Copley Hospital, the old Waubonsee College campus, the Hobbs building, the Terminal building, and many, many more features of architectural significance and history in our community. The fate of these historic historic structures rests largely in the hands of our state officials, and I hope they will do the right thing. And I would also like to, if I could, introduce David Block from Evergreen, who's been a real since we made New York Street two-way, just driving east from Broadway and looking at the facade of St. Charles Hospital, it's a beautiful building. It'll be a great addition to our downtown. Unfortunately, historic buildings are not the only development challenges facing our city. With their beautiful vistas and tranquil surroundings, former industrial sites along the river provide the perfect location for new residential development as well as open space. But many of these sites languish for years because they are difficult to repurpose. The city and Invest Aurora are actively working with 2 of these properties to encourage redevelopment along our riverfront. We are finalizing a redevelopment agreement for the former Soderstrom pallet factory property along the river at north of Indian Trail that paves the way for future residential development at this site. At the same time, we're working with Aurora Specialty Corporation. Some of you may recall this property as the muslin factory. Anybody ring a bell with anybody? I guess I'm the only one. Right. See, my memory's not real good anyway. But anyway, it's an old industrial site as well. That's located between Illinois and Indian Trail. And we're working to ensure that that is remediated and made available for redevelopment as well. I think we see some possible, what it could look like, I think, in the future. By partnering with these businesses, we're looking to breathe new life into potential problem properties and create attractive new housing along the river. And I think Batavia is a great example, as well as other communities, of some beautiful, beautiful housing along the riverfront over time. We cannot talk about the river, however, without talking about River Edge Park, one of my favorite places. First, we've procured and demoed Randy's Auto in a general office building at the south end of the park, which will allow us to expand the park, increasing capacity and adding some amenities. For this season, however, we'll have to be content with completing the environmental cleanup of the area, and this is work shared by both ComEd and the city. Second, and perhaps of greater interest, we have an absolutely great lineup of acts for this summer at River Edge Park, and I think it will be the best summer yet, if I'm not wrong. Let's take a look. And that reminds me, I wanted to introduce my wife, Marilyn, who's with us today. And I wanted to do that before July 7th, at which time she may leave me for Johnny Depp. Okay, great lineup though, huh? It's going to be an exciting year. I'll see you down there, all right? And I'll buy you a beer. How's that? All right, good. All right, many of you have read or heard about the proposed bridge connecting River Edge Park on the east side with the west side of the Fox River. Some may be under the illusion that the only purpose of the bridge is to allow access to River Edge Park from the west side of the river, but that's only a small part of the plan. The bridge will also create easy pedestrian and bicycle access to Transportation Center's Metro trains and PACE buses, which will help to strengthen the attraction of our nearby west side historic neighborhoods, as well as creating greater connectivity to Restaurant Row, which, finally, in post-recession mode, is starting to blossom with the very popular Gillerson's Grubbery and exotic youth samba joining the original stakeholder, Bailey Doyle. Also helping to feed the throngs attending the Broadway series is Two Brothers Roundhouse, which also features a comedy club, music and the arts, along with doing a huge wedding and banquet business. Supporting that banquet business is the newly and nicely upgraded former Comfort Suites, which has changed labels to the Holiday Inn brand. It's now a Holiday Inn Express hotel to better align itself with the business world. And Rocky Pintozzi is a guy who was willing to risk and take a risk on downtown Aurora 20 years ago when no one else would. And we are happy that today he's an integral part of a much, much busier downtown. Rocky, would you stand up and be recognized? Thank you, Rocky, for believing in Aurora. But the new bridge we have on the drawing board could actually have even a greater impact than I've already mentioned. It could be a major factor in the redevelopment of North River Street all the way from New York Street to West Park. The city already owns considerable property on both sides of the river, both sides of River Street, in this area, and the property could be made available to a creative developer or developers. I asked John Cordigan and his team at Cordigan & Clark to help me give you a peek into the future and see what North River Street could look like 10 years from now. And there we have it. You see there's a mix of residential and commercial uses extending from the river all the way to Route 31 in some cases. I believe there's a museum space showed in one of the plans anyway, and people may say, what museum could that be? And I don't know, but 10 years from now, the one thing that occurs to me right now is a new and improved SciTech. When you think that we have IMSA, we have a STEM Academy here in Aurora, and we have a newly re-energized Fermilab just next door, that could make sense. But there could be a blues museum. We have a real blues history in Aurora as well. So those are all possibilities. We want to just give you a glimpse of the possibilities in the future here in Aurora. So I think we've created the infrastructure and the opportunities here, and now with the Great Recession fading, the possibilities seem endless. In 2004, when I first announced that I would run for mayor, Aurora had many skeptics. Beaten down by years of crime and disinvestment, I found few people who thought Aurora's future was bright. And today, the critics still find things to complain about, but let's be honest, businesses are investing here and jobs are abundant. Families, seniors, singles, and even millennials are moving in, not out. The downtown is more busy and beautiful than it's been in decades, and it's attracting new investment. Arts, culture, and music, and theater are thriving and driving huge crowds. But the really exciting news is that I believe we've just scratched the surface. There's so much promise in Aurora, and the good news is that it isn't dependent on any one person. Each of you in this room holds the power to help shape Aurora's future. You are the promise of Aurora, and in your hands, I believe the best of Aurora has yet to come. God bless you all, and thank you for being here.
Mayor, thank you very much for not only your address today, but your service to the city. Thank you. One more person, or two people actually, that I'd like to recognize that I missed earlier, and my apologies to them and to the state rep. Vernon Levia and Mary Lou Chapa are here representing State Representative Linda Chapa-Levia, so thank you too. Thank you all again for joining us. Thank you to the wonderful sponsors for today's event including Deutschler Associates and that, and congratulations once again on your 100th anniversary. Have a great day, be safe, and we'll see you next year. Thank you.